Welcome back to another episode of the Goku Runner Talks podcast. For episode 4, we have Michael Mcginnis. He's the youngest finisher of the Habanero Hundred. In my opinion, the toughest 100-miler in Texas. Let's go hear about his running story and his experience at Habanero. All right, so welcome to another Goku Runner Talks podcast. Today on the episode, I have Michael Mcginnis. He is one of the youngest finishers, or the youngest finisher of the Habanero Hundred. How you doing, Michael? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to have you on the podcast. I know you talked to me at the race. You were like, "Hey, Goku Runner," and I was like, "Okay, a young guy knows me, so that's pretty interesting." So how did you come out to know about me, Goku Runner?
I have this tendency for every race I train for, I kind of obsess over it, and so I had been scouring YouTube and Reddit and all over looking for videos on the race, and I came across your videos, and actually I rewatched them probably 2 or 3 times. I rewatched them the week of the race. I actually sat down, I think one morning, and just like did a whole marathon of all the Goku Runner videos of Habanero Hundred and the Three Bros running and everything too. So
oh wow, okay.
So I came to know you, and then I think you like sometime throughout the week actually put on a podcast that you're going to be out there. And so I told my friends who were pacing me and crewing me, I was like, hey, if you see this guy named Goku Runner, he's going to be filming people out there. Tell him, to say what's up. And I actually didn't expect to see you, which is pretty crazy. So
yeah, it was towards the end. But before we get into all of that, this I just want to know, like, how did you get into running overall? Like, you just started running 10 months ago, from what I saw on your Instagram.
Yeah.
11 months ago now.
It's actually it's actually quite a long story. I never ran at all. The last time I actually ran was I did track and field when I was in middle school, and never ran through high school. The high school coach wanted me to run, but I was more interested in other things. And last year was my junior year of college, and I just came back from this summer trip. I went to Europe, and I was in school, and I wasn't doing as well as I wanted to, and I was probably doing a lot of things that weren't things that would maybe make your parents very proud of you. Not doing as well in class as I wanted to, and so basically I knew that, and I was looking for an internship for a job. I wanted to be able to work when I graduate from college, and so and I was just kind of struggling to do the things that I felt like I needed to do as a human being. And a lot of it started with like I just needed to focus on school and kind of clean up the bad stuff I was doing. And my roommate, who had just ran a half Ironman, he was like, you're tall, you're pretty skinny, like you'd probably be a good runner. You should just go run. And I went out and I ran a mile, and next day I ran 2 miles, and then within maybe a week or two, I did my first long run, which was 4.5 miles. And then the week after was 6.5. And over about 6 or 7 weeks, I had built up my weekly mileage to over 60 miles a week. And held that for about 3 or 4 weeks. And then felt a little pain start to grow up around a little above my ankle. And I dealt with a stress fracture. From just my body wasn't used to that kind of running, and
too much too soon. That's what they call it, right?
Exactly, right. So from then on, I had already signed up for the Austin Marathon, which ended up being my first race.
So the first race was a marathon. That was your first race.
Yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
I was signed up for the Houston Marathon, but I was hurt during it, so I couldn't run it. And the long run where I started feeling the stress fracture, I ran 22 miles. So I already knew I could actually run a marathon, and that was only 6 or 7 weeks in. And in the process, while I was hurt, basically I couldn't run anymore. But I really wanted to move, and I really wanted. I'm becoming a believer in the idea that movement is medicine, and so I started cross training on a stationary bike at the gym here at UT, and I would, ride on that bike for like an hour or two almost every single day, which is in a gym, super boring. And I would listen to these audiobooks, and so I came across "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins, which I think a lot of ultra runners have, came across that before, and that's how I found out about ultras. And so, I healed up, and 3 weeks late, or 3 weeks after I could literally start running again, I ran the marathon. My longest run since being healthy had only been 7 miles. Ran the marathon 20 minutes faster than I wanted to, 3:38.
Huh.
And
So
then
your goal was sub 4,
you're right, yeah.
and you
So
did
and then
338. You said, or 348?
right, 3:38.
That's great. 338.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
amazing.
then like I think 9 weeks later was my first 50 miler. So I did my first ultra marathon at Prickly Pear in San Antonio, and then
Okay.
the next weekend I did the Green Ultra and College Station. So I did 2 ultras in 1 week, like 2 or 3 weeks after doing the marathon, and then a couple weeks later I used those runs as training for my first 50 miler. And then from then on, I have this habit where I sign up for my next race on the day of the last of the race I do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I'm now like pretty much on like the 4th or 5th time doing that. So after Hatchie 50, which is my first 50 miler, which I like to say I unofficially won, I signed up for Habanero. And then Habanero was quite a bit of a mental toll, but within a couple of days, I signed up for what I'm now training for, which is the Snowdrop 55 hours, which is
Wow.
I want to run 200 miles there. So, and that would be awesome. So, yeah. And
That is from like 0 to 1, like literally 100 in
yeah.
less than like how many? What's that? What's
So I
the
think
time
I started
period?
running about 11 months ago from this point. So, and by the
Wow.
time I do Snowdrop, hopefully, assuming you can't ever assume that you're going to run 200 miles, I guess. If I have a good day at Snowdrop in a couple months, and I have the privilege to get through training healthy, I think it'll be about a year and 2 or 3 months since I started running that I will have gone from basically not running at all to 200 miles.
So how young are you? Since you were the youngest finisher of the Habanero 100.
So
What is your age?
I turned 21 back in May.
Whoa.
So
So yeah. So
yeah,
you are like
I'm
literally
very
just.
often the youngest person at a race. But there was actually one guy I met at Habanero who was doing the 100K. He was only 19, and he
Mhm.
wanted to do the 100, but his coach told him not to. And then I think also I found out from you there was like a 15 or 16-year-old who wanted to do the 100
Yes.
miler, and Cal didn't let him run or something.
Yeah, my whole intention to go there was to film him, just be like, oh, I want to film the young
Right.
kid doing a 100 miler attempt. But he
That's
tried to get people to, tell Cal that he could run it, because he did a 100 miler over at Brazos Bend at the same
right.
location because they moved it to 7IL. But
Right.
Cal was like, no, it's too dangerous for him, and he didn't want to, take up
Yeah.
on that in his insurance. But so you became the youngest. What was the youngest before you? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know. I found out. So after I signed up for the race, I was going through the old results, and because first off, I wanted to see how fast I could run it. And I was going through the old results, and I was like, wait, there's nobody over here that's younger than me. So, and actually at Hatchie 50, I was the youngest person to run. I don't know if I was the youngest person to finish it, but I was the youngest person that ran it last year. And it's just honestly been like the general sentiment. Most people that I've met or that run these ultras are in their 30s or 40s, and I met
Yeah.
some in their 60s or 70s, which is unbelievable. The kind of fitness that these people have, very late in life. So to be 60 or 70 years old and run 30 plus miles is
Yeah, I
unbelievable.
think ultra marathon, usually the normal route, like you definitely went like the fast route. Like the normal route is you do your 5K, 10K, half
Right.
marathon, and then marathons for a good while. And then you're finally like, you know what, let's try this ultra distance. And, that's what got you. So the book is what got you, David Goggins, and reading his story about, like,
Right.
I think his first one was running a track and he crapped himself in the middle of the thing, right? Or he had
Yeah.
diarrhea, was
Well,
bleeding
I
blood.
yeah, I would say that for me, I've always been more focused on what's the hardest challenge that I can set my mind to. So I think ultra is a great place to challenge yourself. And for me personally, where I really like Goggins, and I'm wearing like Sally's yellow hat. I like Sally McRae quite a bit. I
Mhm.
actually got the chance to meet her at the Loop store here in Austin a couple months ago.
Oh, nice.
Um, what I like about them is their mindset and the way that they approach life and the challenges that they face. And I like the idea of trying to constantly keep putting myself in the most difficult position that I possibly can, and trying to find a way to just keep pushing no matter what. And so when I came across Habanero, it wasn't I was looking for the next highest distance, but obviously going into Texas, in summer, I knew that there just wasn't that many 100-milers to run. And so Habanero was like kind of the first 100-miler in a couple months from that 50-mile race that I did. And I was like, you know what, this is like the greatest challenge that I could probably put myself on. And, I hope that I would have the ability to complete something like that. But I also just wanted to challenge my mind and see, like, I'm just so curious, like, at what point am I going to break? And, I think a lot of ultra runners, they always ask themselves, like, why am I doing this? Why am I out here? I could be sitting on the couch. And my first 50-mile race, it was, this is why I say I unofficially won. It was flooding and pouring, and the track was flooded, and there was lightning every 2 or 3 seconds. So they canceled the race 25 miles in, and everybody went home. And I kept running, and I was the only person that stayed out there and finished all 50 miles.
Wow, that's awesome.
Ran an additional 25 miles. And when I came in at the end, I ran into the race director. I think his name is Paul Box, at the Hatchie 50. And he was like, dude, what are you still doing out here? Like it's boring. Like the whole event had already been cleaned up and everything. And I'm just out there still running these loops. And he's like, you know what? He's like, you're the only guy out there. I'm like, if I'm the only guy out here, you have to give me first place. So he gave me like the first place award and all of that, which was super awesome. But yeah, for me, it's just been like, what's going to keep me going and what's going to keep me ticking. And I think a lot of ultra runners ask themselves why they keep going. I still haven't asked myself why yet. And so I'm 100 miles in, and I think one of the harder 100-milers that you can run. And I still haven't asked myself why. So I think that I can keep pushing and I have the ability now to where I can keep setting more ambitious goals with running.
Yeah, Michael didn't only finish the 100-miler. I think he finished one of the toughest 100-milers in Texas for sure, because there's other people that have ran the 100-miler before, and they've done 250 miles. They've done many difficult 100-milers, but they're DNFing this race because it's a race that starts at noon in Texas in the summer, and it's just a tough race overall. So while you were doing the race, like what was the most difficult part for you? Was it the heat? Was it the sand? What was it? Your mind, maybe.
No, so I would say actually just upkeep with my body and a bit with nutrition as well. Looking back a lot at my training with Habanero, it's really interesting because I was in the sauna for hours and hours every day. So really, when I got out there, even in the middle of the heat, like I felt pretty good. Like I was very used to the heat, and I had more than accomplished the goal of acclimating to it. And that was kind of my goal, was to just bring it to a normal 100. The problem is that when you're acclimated to the heat, you're still sweating a lot. You may not feel as hot, but your body actually is overproducing sweat to try and keep you cooler and cooler better than other people who maybe haven't heat acclimated as well. So that was so the one issue that I had, obviously, was the chafing. And so I chafed really badly in my genital areas. I won't, for the discretion of the viewers, I won't go into any more depth into what that was like. That was the main issue. And then also my feet were pretty battered up. I had blisters all up and down. I lost my big toenail after I stubbed my toe about 20 miles in, 30 miles in. And I had to get that removed, the week after the race. I was actually in a doctor's office for 3 days straight. They're doing like red LED lights on the bottom of my feet to try and repair them and make them, because it was just so many blisters. I had a blister that, imagine this is like my big toe and this is the toe next to it. I had a blister that was like around here and then through in between the toe and then up to here. And it was just a mess. I couldn't really walk for about 2 or 3 days. And the crazy part is that my legs actually felt fine. Which is interesting. So I felt, it was really interesting because I felt my legs and I was so frustrated because I knew my fitness was really good, that I was still able to run 70 miles in. We actually came across the guy who won, his name's German. We came across him about 70 miles in, and he was probably a lap or two ahead of me at this point. And in these races, you have highs and lows, and he was kind of going through a low a little bit, I could tell, just because I had ran into him a couple of times earlier in the race and had gone to meet him. And I had my pacer, Max, and we hadn't ran into him yet. Who's actually my roommate and the guy that ran the Ironman. I was like, Max, like, this guy's having a low, but I feel like I really underperformed here today. I just want to go and trail him for a couple miles and just see, to prove to myself that I had the conditioning. And I did. And he was going too slow. We ended up passing him.
Oh, wow. So you just had to keep up with him at one point.
Right, yeah, and that was, like, the last time I really ran in the race, and I actually walked, like, the last 30 miles just because I knew that I had banked so much time on the cutoff that, like, I could walk to the end and still finish, and my feet were so messed up at that point, like I said, I was chafing really badly, and there's a lot of little holes on 7IL that weren't, there was some tall grass that wasn't cut well, and there were some deep kind of divots where I was really concerned that I was gonna, like, break my ankle or something like that. In fact, a guy that I met, I believe his name is also Jeremy, Jeremy Sons, who DNF'd after the 100K. He DNF'd because he rolled his ankle really badly. And actually, I haven't seen him post on Strava since then, so I'm guessing he's still dealing with the injury. So I didn't want to have an injury that was going to take me out for a couple of weeks. Other than that, though, the other thing that was really difficult about Habanero was nutrition. So, when it's that hot, it's very difficult to digest food, specifically solid food. And I knew that going into the race because I had read so many, forums and stuff, on Reddit and YouTube about how to deal with the heat. The high carb drink I was taking, G1M Sport, was messing with my stomach. And so after the first lap or two, I basically had to walk on fresh legs for about 10 miles. And after mile 18, the third loop of Habanero, I came up to my pacers and I was like, look, guys, I couldn't throw up on the track because there's too many people out there. If they see me throw up, I don't want them going and telling Cal that he just threw up, and I don't want him taking me out of the race. And so we're going to go in front of the porta potty, and I'm just going to throw up in the porta potty, and then, we'll keep going. And I told him, I was like, there's still 80 miles left. Like, my race is done at this point. Like, I'm not going to accomplish my time goal, but I now have this new challenge where I'm still young. I'm 21 years old. I'll be running ultras, I hope, for a long time. I've never dealt with stomach issues before in a race, so this is going to be quite a big learning experience for me. I hope I can still get the 100 miles done, but I'm just excited to kind of tackle this new challenge. Which, even though my stomach was hurting and I knew I had 80 miles in front of me with throwing up in the porta potty, it was still really exciting to me to get to push through that and get to see where that would take me mentally and where I would go. So
yeah. So let's go back to your chafing. I know you didn't want to talk too much about it, but that's where I actually first met Michael. He was telling me about, if you guys watched my Instagram stories, or I posted about his little issue. And so do you think it was because you weren't putting enough chafing stuff, or what was going on?
So this is like kind of one of the big things I'm going to be working on for Snowdrop is like just kind of having a schedule where I'm reapplying, chafing cream and like lubricants and stuff for my feet and stuff throughout the race. I just didn't really know how well I had to keep up with my body. And so at the beginning of the race, like, I had loaded up with, I probably sat there for 20 or 30 minutes, just, putting chafing stuff all over my feet, all over, my genital area, my underarms, any place that I had experienced chafing before. I had it everywhere. And the problem is at Habanero, you just sweat so much. And you have to, I would say at least every 50 miles, if not every 30, 40 miles, you need to reapply all that stuff. And it's hard to reapply it because it's you're so sweaty. A lot of this, like, if you have like Body Glide, like the deodorant, it won't stay on you. And so you'll be rubbing yourself and you'll just still feel sweat. And so that's a real challenge with Habanero. And interestingly too, there's a guy named Richard Runs Trails who has a YouTube channel, and he has a video where he talks about Habanero and kind of goes over the entire course. And he said that he thinks the number one reason why people DNF Habanero is because they chafe so much and they just don't want to deal with that anymore. And it happened to me. I didn't want to quit.
So I was joking with you on Instagram as well about how TRTO should sponsor you, and I saw that you just got a package from them. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so they I texted them and they're like, you know what, like if you order something, we'll throw on some goodies for you. And so I bought like the blister cream and whatnot, and they sent me a couple extra canisters. In fact, I have them right here. They sent me a couple of extra like canisters of like different products to try out, which is cool.
So are you sponsored now? Is this a sponsored post now? Are you?
I don't really know. They just sent me some free stuff, so I wanted to thank them for it, and I'm definitely gonna try it out because my experience with Body Glide wasn't so great. So that hopefully what they have is better. There was a product that I used actually in the middle of the race. Because I came up the cow and I was just like joking around, like kind of walking to the end. I was like, cow, my balls hurt. And he's like, when was the last time you put stuff on? It was like mile 70. I'm like, at the start. He's like, you've been going for 70 miles. Like he was like yelling at me. He's like, put stuff on now. And so he like gave me some like this like lather that actually stayed on. And it was so funny because I was standing on the side of the track at Habanero, sitting in my chair, and I'm like rubbing it into my balls, just like watching people come by. And these people are like watching me with like my hands in my pants. I'm like, they have to understand what I'm doing right now. Like there's
Yeah. In
but,
ultras, it's all no holds bar. You know, you can do whatever you want
right.
over there. If
Yeah,
you're
I know.
looking, people are doing some funny
And that's
things.
the other thing too. Is like the community. It's like you could be doing anything. The community with ultras is just. I found personally they're so friendly and everybody's very understanding and nice. And because honestly, for the most part, regardless of the distance, like everybody understands what you're doing at some point. Everybody's been there before, so it doesn't matter if you're doing a 50K or you're doing 100 miles. Like you're going to be in the pain cave at some point. I'll even me running 100 miles. I'll go run a 50K and like I'll be like, man, that was a rough race. And and everybody understands it because everybody has most people out there have run one race or another and or at least a 5K or 10K and they know that it hurts and that there's a lot there's a lot going on. So
Well, what was your final time for the race?
I think I finished about 15 minutes before the cutoff. So we cut it us. So it's like 29 hours and like 45 minutes or something like that.
So were you ever thinking that you might DNF the race, or you were like,
No,
we got this?
No, because I could still run. It just hurt a lot with the chafing, but my legs were still in good enough condition to run. In fact, I ran it, and I guess one of the cooler moments of the race, like the last half mile, my mom actually walked out onto the track,
Oh,
and
nice.
we kind of walked in together, and I actually ran once I kind of came through that last gate, and I could have run. It's just that, like I said, the potential risk of injuring myself, the amount of pain that I was already in, and by that point, I had already known. I think the fastest time I would have gotten at the time we decided to, if I had kept running, I would have been at like a 25 or 26 hour finish, which, and I thought that would have taken me out of the top three. I think now actually I would have finished like third or fourth amongst the men, which would have been awesome. But I was out of a 24-hour finish, and I thought I was out of the top three for sure. So at that point, we made the decision to just kind of walk it in. But yeah, I thought I could have run more. So we'll see it the next time I run 100 miles.
So you had two pacers I saw, right? You had your two friends. I saw them. They're pretty jacked guys too. How did you pick your pacers and who were they?
So those two pacers are they're some of my best friends. One, like I mentioned, my roommate, his name's Max. He also runs ultras. He's running his first 100-miler at Dinosaur Valley as of now.
Oh wow, yeah.
To do. And hopefully I'll repay him him pacing me. I'll repay him by pacing him out there. So if y'all want to see me, I'll probably be at Dinosaur Valley. And he did a half Ironman. He ran the Austin Marathon with me. I know at some point in the future he wants to run CIM, so California International Marathon. And also I think he really wants to run an Ironman. He really likes the triathlon stuff, but Ironmans, you have to train 3 different disciplines and have access to a pool and all that stuff. And also because I'm out here running the ultras, I think the ultra stuff right now is just kind of what we're working towards. But yeah, he's an insane athlete. Also studies economics with me here at UT. He's a dog. Like he trains really hard. We all train really hard. That's kind of the culture we built around here in Austin. But a lot of this started with him, and he's a monster.
So did you tell him anything specific to like help you out during the race or like to push you or anything?
The only thing I specifically told them, and it's because I know everything and ultras is about mindset. I just told him, keep a positive energy, keep a positive mindset. Because if I think that's so powerful. Because if you're, if I'm literally almost crying because my feet are hurting so bad, they're so badly blistered up. I'm losing toenails. My balls and whatnot are hurting. And I've been on my legs. I've been awake for the last 25, 30 hours. If you can keep a positive mindset in that, I think that's so powerful. And and I think that's a lot of the things. I think honestly in life, like this sounds kind of silly, But like, I think if people just try to smile more, they'd probably be a happier individual. And
Yeah.
and I think that that's true in ultras. Like, if and all the pain and then all the suffering, you can find a way to stay positive. That mentality is going to carry you through a race. But if you start feeling negative, one thing is going to lead to the other, and then you're going to be DNFing. And that was the last thing I wanted to do. I went out there to run 100 miles that day, and I feel very accomplished regardless of my time that I did that. And that was my initial goal, was just to finish that was my goal, was just finish the race.
You can always tell like who's going to finish a 100-miler or 100K usually by their attitude. Like if they're coming back every time and they're a little bit walking slow, their heads down and they're
Right.
negative, then you're like, I don't know if they're
100%.
going to do it. Like even when I saw you, you were in pain. You're in pain, but you were still very positive and happy and smiling,
Yeah.
even though you were in tons of pain still. So I knew that
Right.
you're going to do good and finish.
No, and I think that's really important. So, and in fact, my other pacer, Tyler, and Tyler, I've logged a lot of miles with. Tyler's an interesting guy because he takes harder classes than anybody I know in school. He's studying 24/7. He's he's in this robotics club, like he's very deeply involved in. UT has like a insane robotics department or whatever, and he's some leader in robotics. I don't know that much about it. I'm not like engineering minded, but he is. But he literally won't train, and he'll come and run he'll rip like an 18-mile run with us on a Saturday, just out
That's
of
horrible.
nowhere. And because he wants to get it in too. And he that was actually the longest time he'd spent on feet, walking basically for 6 hours with me. And then actually, interestingly, he ran a marathon the next weekend just for fun.
Wow.
He went,
Wow.
and so yeah, he's a different animal too. And in fact, he probably has it the hardest out of any of us that I know, in terms of just like how busy he is and how how little I know he sleeps, and the efforts that he's still able to put out. And I mean, that guy is a grinder as well. So, and the reason why they're both big is because they lift as well. So they're hybrid athletes or whatever.
So you're an Austin guy. Do you follow Nick Bear as well? And he's the hybrid athlete.
So that's like Max's like idol. Interestingly, in fact,
you're actually wearing the shirt, right?
I'm wearing a Going More shirt. I got this. So they're heavily involved with the Austin Marathon, and at the Shakeout Run last year, they hosted it. And BPN products are a little bit expensive, and so but we were able to get like the red CL hat. CL, I don't know how to pronounce it. CL hats.
Cello, I don't know,
yeah, and we got these shirts. We probably got like $200 worth of BPN gear just from going to the Shakeout Run. I use a lot of their products. I like I said in the race, their G1M kind of killed me. Their high carb drink. I used to take their electrolytes. Their creatine is really good creatine. When I'm in a position where I'm not going to be getting enough protein in my diet, I do take their whey protein. They just make excellent products for health and wellness. A little bit expensive, I will say, but yeah, I really like what they're doing. And and also from your perspective, because you're really into like the documenting, people races or your own races and your own athletic journey and running journey. They make some really insane content. And
not only about like the Nick, but they followed like Sally McRae. They followed a bunch of their own
she's like
athletes
my favorite
stuff
as well. So she's amazing, and her book is
she's
incredible.
the yellow runner on Instagram, I think.
Yeah,
and
and
the hat.
You're right, and so she's unbelievable, and her book is incredible. I highly recommend it. Her story is unbelievable, and I think BPM. So I remember, because when I think around the time when I first signed up for my marathon, Max showed me Nick's Leadville video, and I was like, this is crazy, like 100 miles through the mountains of Colorado. Like, I'm never going to do that. Like, that sounds horrible. And I don't know if I'll ever actually run Leadville. It's not currently a race that interests me that much, but running 100 miles through the mountains sounds like something I would do. And here we are, a couple months later, and what do you know? But
at least you're in Austin. You have a lot more training over there. Like, there's some hills that you could actually go up compared to Houston over here.
Yeah, the thing is, well, compared to Houston, 100%. So my parents still live in Houston. That's where I grew up, and I've done a lot of running there. They live like 2 miles from Memorial Park, so like I'll go running in Memorial Park all the time. But here we have Mount Benel, we've been running up there. There's some really like steep streets, and that's highest point Austin. And then a lot of people run Hill of Life. The only problem when you're trying to train in Austin and then run in the mountains is that we're still at low sea level. And so that air isn't thin enough. And so, that's part of the reason why, for the most part, I've like kind of avoided these like mountain races to this extent, is just because I don't have the ability to train for them as well as I'd want to. And so for me, and also I think that the races in Texas are really cool. So I want to keep showing those off as well.
So you're moving up to the 200 miler, you said, for what's it called? What's the race called again?
Snowdrop.
For Snowdrop. Snowdrop's a great race for pediatric cancer. And why did you want to move up to 200? Like you could do it whatever distance you want, because you have 3 days to do that race?
I have 55 hours, so a little over 2 days.
Hours. Yeah. So why 200? Why is 200 the goal?
It's so interesting because I'm reaching this point after my races where it's like, now I'm just like, what's next? And I'm really going to be faced with that question after Snowdrop when I've hit 200 miles. Because at that point, it's just like, this is getting ridiculous. I think for me, I've always been interested in the distance. Even like the first time I ran a half marathon, like in my training and stuff, I kind of had that gradual buildup of pain in my legs. I was like kind of waddling around my house after, but I felt a sense of pride in like being able to put myself in that position where I could feel that kind of pain. And, the biggest thing too, and Habanero, was that my legs were good. So I ran 100 miles, my legs were fine. And so I knew that if I didn't, if I had taken care of my body better, not only would I have gone faster, but I would have been able to run way further than 100 miles that day. And so for me, it's like, now I'm trying to answer the question of like, how far can I run? How long is it going to be until my legs are just done? So Snowdrop seems kind of practical as like the next kind of, it's first off, it's in December. It's like a 0.7 mile loop. So it's going to have that kind of psychotic going in circles and circles. That's going to really challenge my mind. But also it's going to be a really good test to see how far my legs can carry me. And I do have an idea there's another race called 6 Days in the Dome after Snowdrop, which could be interesting, but we're still way far away from that point. But right now I'm just kind of interested in how long I can go. And then maybe in a couple of years or something, it'll change to how quickly I can do it. The other thing is like, if I'm going to go to these races, I really want to be fast and I really want to compete. And, and that means that you have to run 100 miles in, 14, 15, 16 hours. And I'm nowhere near that fitness level yet. And I may never get there, but I'm going to keep training myself to get to a point to where I'm as close as I'll ever be at that. And then when that opportunity does come to go and run a Western States or Hard Rock or maybe even Leadville or UTMB, hopefully I'll be at, really, really fast and actually get to race in those. Cause that's part of it too. Everybody loves racing. Everybody wants to go up against each other, and it's all, the strategy, who's going to take a power nap here, especially when you get into the Tahoes and like the Moabs and all of that, like the really long races where you almost have to sleep because it's like 60, 70 hours. It's like those races are really fun. And when you start to get into the strategy of it. So you're really you're really getting into this the ultra scene and everything. Yeah, I really like it a lot.
You're a younger guy, and I know your parents are still
have the opportunity here. So most people don't get into this until it's really late. And so at that point, if you want to be good, you have to hope you had a background in running kind of growing up. And I'm very lucky that I found it now. So I know that right now, if I want it, I can train and get really fast. And in 5-10 years, I'll be really, really good. And if I don't want it, I still challenge myself really, really far. And, I did more than most people can say that they that most people can say that they did in their lifetime when it comes to pushing themselves like physically and mentally. And I can take the lessons I learned from this. And that's the other thing with ultra running. I can take the lessons I learned from this and I can apply it to so many other aspects of my life.
100%. Yeah.
And so from that point on, it's like, if I stopped ultra running today, like there are so many lessons I learned from just running this 100 miler or this, even if I stopped at Hatchie 50, there are so many lessons that are applicable to my life that have given me a leg up and have, definitely helped me substantially in my relationships, career, school, and everything. So
So, what do your parents think about all this ultra running and racing? Are they supportive? Are they like you need to doing something else? Why are you wasting all your time running all the time? What are they
uh,
saying?
I think it's a mixture between scared and proud. I hope
Mhm.
that they're proud of me, but I know that they're scared of me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because before I went to Europe, like 2 years ago, I spoke with a teacher, a former teacher who traveled a lot, and I was telling him about these places I want to go that will make that I know my parents would be scared if I went to these places in Europe. And he was like, that's kind of part of life. Like you're gonna make your parent, like you're gonna scare your parents at some point, but you also have to carve your own journey and carve your own path, and and they just have to trust that you're gonna be okay. And so yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing with an ultra running is just kind of carving my way. And I know that it's they're probably scared about what it's doing to my body and all that, but the benefits for what it's done for me mentally and also for me physically as well. Like I think I'm a very physically capable individual. um, I think that I've reaped the benefits of that, and they'll continue to keep paying out probably for the rest of my life. And so yeah, it scares them, but they also see me doing accomplishing these things, which I think are really cool achievements, and I think it also makes them proud as well that I'm doing these things. So and that's kind of what I've told my mom too. Like my mom was like when I was trying to sell them on Habanero, they're like, I was like, mom, like this is going to be like the coolest thing that you can ever tell people that like your son went and did this. And even though that's like kind of an arrogant perspective to take, and I had to kind of convince them like that it was cool and whatnot.
Uh,
I do think at least I'm very proud of myself, and I would hope that my parents are proud of me as well. So yeah, that's kind of my
so,
answer.
so you said that before you were, getting into other things and that weren't helpful or for your life. You think that so you're saying that running now has like leveled you out, and you think that it's made you a
Yeah,
better person and all everything, learning the
yeah,
struggles of the
of
hundreds and
course.
everything.
Yeah, the first thing is that between school and running and work, it's like I have no time to do anything else really, other than I'll maybe catch a football game with my friends, or maybe get to go out to eat with my brother, or something like that. And so that's the other thing is I just don't get time to like get myself into things that would get me in trouble. Um, but yeah, I think that that running can be really really powerful for people, and it has been for me. So I think from a mental perspective as well, like I run a lot by myself, and
Hmm.
I run a lot not listening to music, not listening to podcasts. Although I do sometimes listen to music and podcasts. Like I'm not totally psychotic, but a lot of time I've spent hundreds of hours running by myself with nothing in my ears, and just thinking and organizing my thoughts, and from and I think it's interesting too. You go around, you look around at the world, and you see so many people are on anti-anxiety, anti-depression drugs, and I'm not saying that those don't work and that those haven't been helpful for certain people, but I think that so much of it is just um, like you need to kind of like people need to exercise, people need to get out of the house, people need to talk and converse with other people need to think about the things that they're feeling and why they're feeling that way, and think about the things that will make them not feel bad, and think about the things that will help them achieve goals and the things that they want to
Yeah.
set out to achieve. And I think that a lot of people aren't doing those sort of things, and I think that societally, a lot of people would be better off if they focused on taking care of themselves from a mental and a physical perspective. And I think that they play into each other. I think that if you have good fitness, you have a higher likelihood of being mentally sane, and I think that or mentally well. And I think that if you're mentally well, there's a higher likelihood that you have good fitness. And so I think that those go hand in hand. So it's like I said earlier in the podcast, like movement is medicine.
Yeah,
Um,
running is one of those things where you're actually disconnected from everything. Like right now,
right,
everybody's on their phones, you're on your TikTok scrolling,
exactly.
all day long. And then when you're running that long run, you can't be on your phone. You're just, especially if you have no music on, you're thinking about
Yeah,
things that you're usually not thinking about all the day because you're so busy doing other things whenever
right.
you're by yourself in your bed or
Of
anywhere else.
course.
So
And
running
my
is
mom,
really,
yeah. Well, no, and my mom, when I first started running, I would go out and run 13 miles, 18 miles, and she didn't like that I didn't have my phone on me. And I was like, Mom, if you want to get in touch with me, like you got to come run with me or something like that. And part of it was just like, I wanted to be alone with my thoughts and just kind of, and process everything. And, I got to a point, one thing that I was doing a lot was trying to stay very present and then go day by day. And so sometimes if I was just like, my mind was wandering, I would literally just be running, and I always run at night. So I would just be running and I would be like, all right, these are all the things I have to do tomorrow. And I would just kind of go through it, and or I would think, these are the things that are bothering me right now, or these are the things that I'm trying to achieve. How am I going to get there? And so just kind of going through these like kind of mental exercises, especially relative to like if I wasn't running, I'd probably be like sitting, best case scenario, I'm like sitting on the couch, like scrolling TikTok, and and if you look at that sort of pattern, I think that's super unhealthy, because every single time you swipe, your brain clicks and it triggers dopamine. Yep. And so the second that you're not actually doing that, and you kind of get up from the couch and all of your dopamine has been kind of cruising for the last 20, 30 minutes, and you're not feeling as good anymore. No wonder you start to kind of feel depressed and anxious when, you're not doing that. And that's the other thing too, is like, just like in daily life, there's so much of that sort of like instant gratification, instant hits of dopamine, and people aren't, and when people are deprived of that for any instance, they start to feel depressed and anxious. And I think that it's very real, and a really big problem in society. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that you have a really level head on you. Like I could definitely see, like I think you're mature for your age, man. You've running has helped you, and I can hear you talk and hear you speak.
That aren't super mature, so I've just like learned from it. So yeah.
So have you thought about High Rocks or any of those events in the future?
No, because I'm like my physique is like I always say like,
how tall are you? You're a tall dude. You're like a 6'4".
I'm 6'3". So
okay.
Yeah, my legs are. I always say my legs are my masterpiece, because like I've trained them a lot, and they do exactly what I need them to do. My upper body, on the other hand, is like I'm very lean. I'm not as skinny as most ultra runners are, but I'm pretty thin. And I've been told that like something like a Tough Mudder or a Spartan, like I wouldn't need to train very much to be able to go in and do. But High Rocks just isn't really for me. It doesn't really play to my strengths as an athlete. It's not something that I view as being more challenging or a harder stretch for my mind than running an ultra would be. And so I think that those things are cool, that people can do them, and that can be a challenge for them. And some people, that might be what makes them tick, and that might be what they really want to do, but it's just not for me. So, and those are cool events. I think that like the guys that pace me, I think Max and Tyler would be insane at High Rocks.
Yeah.
They could run and they have, and the High Rocks too, on the other hand, is like, it's not like I feel like with bodybuilding, it's not as much practical strength. With High Rocks, it's like, like these guys are like the quintessential athletes. Like they are fast, they are strong, they are agile. And so yeah, I respect those sorts of events. It's just not for me. So
all right, so what's next for you? What's next for you? Like besides the 200 miler, you're graduating soon, huh? Or what's up?
Right. Yeah. So so the thing with running is like, it's kind of not. I mean, it's something I love to do. It's like I view it as a hobby, and anything else that comes with it that would make it seem like more of a hobby. Like, and I do things like this, like going on podcasts or having stuff sent for me by TRTOs and whatnot, is like that's all cool. But for me, I'm really focused on building a career in commercial real estate. So for me, I'm a senior here at UT, studying economics, and I actually have an internship that I do on top of school. That's a commercial real estate analyst internship. And that's what I was doing this past summer. I was interning at a firm in New York where I was doing commercial real estate analytics. And so that's kind of that's where I see myself professionally. And I view this ultra running as a way to help condition my mind and condition my physical fitness for longevity purposes. But just to kind of, like, I started doing this so that way I could be a better real estate analyst. I didn't do this because I wanted to be the best ultra runner of all time. It's just that I luckily happen to be good at it, or to some extent. I would like to think I'm good at it. So yeah, that's my goal. My goals are what I really care about is my work and then also friends and family and my relationships. And but the running stuff is really, really cool. And I think it's helped me a lot to just maximize like the emphasis I'm putting on my health and my well-being mentally and physically, away from school and away from my like friendships and family relationships. So.
All right, so we got one more thing. Do you have anything else to say in the podcast? Do you want to tell anybody anything before we get to the last thing? Is this or that?
Not really, Mom. I love you. That's pretty much it. Sorry for scaring you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So.
All right, let's get to this or that. This is a game we're gonna play. You just tell me which one you would choose. So
Okay.
It's roads or trails?
Roads.
Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram. I don't know how Facebook works.
Yeah, you're a young kid. Nobody's on Facebook, right? So pizza or burgers?
Oh.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna go with pizza, but it has to be a Neapolitan style pizza. It can't just be pizza.
So you like stuff with like the basil on top of it, huh?
Yeah, like the nice pizza that like wasn't made out of $1 slice.
Next one is a belt buckle or a medal.
I like belt buckles that have the little like the little necklace on them, so I can wear the belt buckle. But definitely belt buckles. Belt buckles that it takes more to earn a belt buckle. I think that does turn a medal. So
although Austin Marathon does have a belt buckle as their marathon.
I know, and
what do you think about that?
So when I first got it, I was like, "Oh, this is so cool!" But now that I've run ultras and have gotten belt buckles and understand how that works, I actually really don't like it. Like, I think that they just need to do a medal, and you could do like a crazy cool like Texas themed medal that's not a belt buckle. But I mean,
I'm with you.
What am I going to do about it? They should
100%.
They should do a medal. I think that save the belt buckles for the ultras. So.
And then the last one is Austin or Houston. You have to choose your hometown or where you're at now.
I'm going to go with Houston. And the reason why is because the food in Houston is just unreal. Like Austin 100%. Has good food, a good culture. Like it's exciting to be here, but man, Houston, like the food is different. And for me personally, it's very nostalgic. So if you're not from Houston, you're definitely going to say Austin. And that's like, so like everybody in the entire world that's not from Houston is going to say Austin. But for me personally, I prefer Houston. So
yeah, Houston food. I mean, you could go anywhere. It's international. You could choose. You could travel the world in Houston.
Yeah, I mean, go to Chinatown in Houston. Like you can eat for days and never leave a parking or never leave a strip center. And you just can't do that quite in Austin. So, but there's still great food here. So.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast. I've had you for just about 50 minutes, Michael. I appreciate you. We had some issues at the beginning, but we worked those out. And I've enjoyed talking to you, man. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Yeah, dude. I really appreciate it, especially from the race, getting to know you, and also for all those videos from before the race. You helped me out a lot, and helped me succeed in my race, which I'm deeply appreciative of. And doing things like this is super fun. So always make the time for something like this. Thank you.
All right. See you later. Thanks.
See ya.
Wow, what a great young man Michael Mcginnis is. He's going to go a long way in the ultra scene and keeps on doing what he's doing. So proud of him for completing the Habanero 100, and I'm excited to see where he goes in the future. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things that you do on podcasts and on YouTube, so this podcast can be seen and reach to many, many people out there. Make sure to check out the next episode every Monday on the podcast. See you guys on the next one.